Welcome to Travel with Sean. Today we're in Athens, Greece. It's our first day here. We haven't seen anything yet. We didn't get out to see the sights. Not because we didn't want to, but because everything is closed today because there's a nationwide strike. And we wanted to go get some food, some groceries, but the grocery stores are closed. It was hard to find a restaurant that's open. Finally, we did find one that's open, and it just happens to overlook the Acropolis.
On February 28, 2023, Greece experienced its deadliest train disaster in history when a passenger train collided head-on with a freight train near the town of Tempi. 57 people died, many of them university students returning from a holiday break. The crash sparked immediate national grief and outrage. Investigators later revealed that the freight train was illegally carrying hazardous chemicals. The collision ignited a massive fireball and exposed chronic failures in Greece's railway system that railway workers had long warned of, and for which little had been done. Despite ongoing investigations, no politicians have been charged, and a recent no-confidence vote against the government failed. 2 years later, on the anniversary of the tragedy, February 28, 2025, tens of thousands of people flooded Athens and other cities, demanding justice. Violent clashes broke out between protesters and riot police in Syntagma Square and elsewhere around Athens. Tear gas and stun grenades filled the air, echoing years of frustration. On our first morning in Athens, we walked over to the Acropolis, but found the ticket booth closed. Someone told us that the site was closed because of a strike. We noticed that most of the businesses were closed also. We learned that a demonstration was scheduled from 11 a.m. until 2 p.m. at Syntagma Square, right in front of the Parliament building. So we decided to go to the nearby metro station to take a train to an ancient cemetery just over a mile away. When we reached the metro station that morning, it was already packed. People were pouring out of the trains and heading straight for the exits. The energy was focused and determined. These were not commuters. They were on their way to protest. Even inside the metro station, hallways, escalators, and stairs were packed with people heading towards Syntagma. No chants, no signs, just a focused, steady movement. It felt like the whole city was shifting in the same direction, toward the square, toward the tension, while we were moving the opposite direction, away from whatever was coming. When we arrived near the Kerameikos archaeological site, the sidewalks were already packed. Crowds were pouring out of the metro, all heading toward yet another protest sparked by the tragic train crash. There was no mistaking the energy. People weren't just walking. They were moving with a purpose, drawn to the demonstrations happening all over the city. Having only seen crowds in the metro stations, it was clear that this too would be a big one. When we arrived at this archaeological site, it was also closed. We realized they must all be closed, so we started to head back to the metro station to return to our apartment to wait it out. These motorcyclists were likely headed to the protest that day, one of many groups converging on central Athens. Our apartment was near the temple of Olympian Zeus, just a 15-minute walk from Syntagma Square. Since the demonstration was supposed to end at 2, I went outside on the balcony to look around. I saw our street filled with people, and I looked to the left, and the street to Syntagma Square was absolutely packed as far as I could see, and it was overflowing into our street. It was after 2 p.m., and they were not done yet. It was after 2 p.m., and people began leaving the road to Syntagma Square, signaling an end to this demonstration. The demonstration was over, but some protesters stayed behind, and tensions began to ignite. Literally, a dumpster fire flared up. With smoke in the air from the fire, these people look like they're waiting for something to happen. Some are already breaking large rocks into smaller ones, getting ready for whatever might come. Just outside our building, a small group of protesters had gathered in the street. Others stood further up the road, scattered between us and the turnoff to Syntagma Square. It didn't feel like things were winding down. If anything, the energy seemed to be building again. People weren't leaving. They were waiting, watching, like something might still be coming. Some began throwing rocks. The street felt charged. No one seemed sure what would happen next, but they looked like they were ready for whatever might come. Dozens climbed over fences to get into the Temple of Olympian Zeus archaeological site, which was closed because of the strike. According to reports, some broke off pieces of ancient ruins to use as rocks in the coming clash with police. A few protesters were breaking up rocks into smaller pieces. No one was rushing around. No one was shouting. The movement was deliberate, focused, like people were preparing for something that they believed was inevitable. Others were slowly making their way up to the street that leads to Syntagma Square. It wasn't chaos, but it wasn't over. The tension was still thick in the air, and it felt like the next phase hadn't started yet, but it was coming soon. Many stayed clustered in a small group, while a few moved up the road, checking, it seemed, to see where the police were and whether they were coming. It's as if this was the calm before the storm. Police in riot gear began marching toward the protesters. Their formation was tight and steady, meant to send a message. But the protesters didn't scatter. Instead, they seemed defiant. One even deployed a wheeled fire extinguisher, while others readied their rocks. After deploying their tear gas and chasing after the protesters, the police now occupy the space where the protesters had been gathering just moments before. Tear gas hangs in the air as some of the protesters turn back, hurling rocks at the police, who had temporarily halted their advance.
After some protests turned violent, we escaped it all unharmed and look forward to a better day tomorrow, being able to get out and see the sights. Until next time, bye-bye.